Hi, I'm Karlene and I enjoy sharing ways that you too can create a beautiful life on a budget. From my little corner in the world, I hope to inspire you to make over parts of your life and home that need some TLC. I love to create videos around family, food, homemaking, DIY, travel, beauty and more. If this sounds like your vibe, please hit subscribe. Good morning and welcome to my kitchen. In today's video, I actually have a few different things that I want to achieve today and over the next couple of days. I want to make some homemade tomato sauce. I need to prepare the cheese that I bought. I've got some breadcrumbs and croutons to make since it's salad season being spring. It's currently school holidays, so I've got a spring scavenger hunt to share with you that I did with the kids, which they really enjoyed, which is a free activity that you could also do with your kids, and we'll see what else I can get done. So let's get started. Are we ready? Are you ready? Suki's down here. If in doubt, just know that she is always where mummy is. If you saw my last video, you would have seen me save the spring onion remnants. So this was filmed the next day, so the next afternoon, and you can see how much they've grown already. So if you want to start growing your own veggies, start with them. Very easy. I will link this tomato sauce recipe below. I substituted fresh garlic for minced garlic and I ran out of white wine vinegar, so I used apple cider vinegar. So you're going to need some whole cloves, some cumin, some salt, some whole pepper, cayenne pepper, and I substituted fresh ginger for powdered ginger as well. So I substituted a couple of things here. Like I said, I will link the recipe below. The first time I made this recipe, I made all the boys taste test, like a store-bought one and then the one that I had made, and they couldn't tell the difference. They both tasted the same to them, so that's why I'm recommending for you to try this recipe. So you're going to need about 1.5 kilos of tomatoes, roughly chopped. I didn't even cut out the little umbilical cord bit where the tomato grows on the vine. I did it really rough. You can't hear the baby crying in the background, but yeah, he's still teething, so that's still happening. So last time I used about 10 average size tomatoes, whereas this time, by the time I was going to make it this week, I ended up with 7 because I guess the burgers the night before, used a tomato when I must have used a tomato somewhere else and forgotten about it. So it still worked with 7 tomatoes, and I didn't change the liquid amounts for anything. I just wanted to sort of test it out and see how I went. So I found this is like a forgiving recipe. You can't really go wrong. And what I like about it is that after the hardest part would be chopping the tomatoes and measuring out your herbs and spices, and you just pretty much just throw it in to your pot and simmer it for a few hours just in the background of your everyday life. And at the end, you will have some delicious homemade tomato sauce that you know exactly what is in it. Of course, if you're growing your own tomatoes, this would be, way more, economical. Our tomatoes are cheap at the moment at like $2.80 a kilo, but I wouldn't be making this when it's bloody $10.90 a kilo. So I guess, pick and choose as you will, but this is something that you could make at home to help you, save some money, and it's not a lot of hard work. If you would like some more tips on how to save your family money when you're doing your grocery shopping, I will link that video below. So after you've prepped your tomatoes and you've got all of your herbs and spices measured out, you pretty much just need to put everything into a simmer pot. And at this point is where you add normally your fresh garlic. So I'm just using my minced garlic, 1 teaspoon. And you're going to need 2/3 of white wine vinegar and 1/2 cup of white sugar. So add all of your herbs and spices in, and then you're really just going to stir that through. And first of all, you want it to come to a boil, but then you're going to leave it simmering, partially covered in the background. Okay, so next up is an embarrassing amount of leftover bread. Our bread goes bad so quickly here. I don't know if it's the humidity, the heat. We live in a subtropical climate. I'm from Queensland, if you didn't know that, in Australia. So I just like to just dump it in the freezer when I'm thinking, this ain't going to last until tomorrow. There's going to be mold tomorrow when I wake up. This is going to be no good. So at that point, the night before, or earlier, I chuck it in the freezer. This is probably 3 or 4 months worth of bread. So what I like to do is chuck it in the food processor, blend it up, put it on a baking tray, and we're going to dry this out and make our own breadcrumbs. You can use this to sprinkle on top of casseroles or potato bakes. You can use it to bulk up your rissoles, meatloaf, just by using up what you have at home and saving yourself money instead of just buying a box or a bag of breadcrumbs at the shop. So here's a progress shot of our tomato sauce while it's bubbling away. You can see it's still on that runny side, so we're going to cook that down further, and the more it cooks down, the more flavoursome it will become. You just want that partially covered. Meanwhile, my floor is covered in breadcrumbs, and are you even Filipino if you don't own one of these brooms? They're so much better than just your normal brooms that you get from like Woolies, trust me. If you walk past an Asian grocer and you see these like in a big bucket at the front of the store, buy one. It is so much easier to sweep your floor. Coming from a true Filipino. Anyway. Alright, so this is how much breadcrumbs I got out of all of those bags of bread. So some of them are a bit chunkier, some of them are fine. I'm sort of not fussy. And you can crumble it up as you go. So keep your little bread baggies, because you're going to want to store it in the freezer when you're done. Unless you're going to make something straight away and you want to use it up, they'll last a few days in the pantry. So I'm just going to go ahead and bag mine up. I'm lucky these little white trays that I've got, little serving dishes that I've got, I was just cooling them off on there, and it's the perfect size to fit into the bread bag, so I'm not just tipping breadcrumbs everywhere, because I'm thinking a funnel's going to take way too long. I did think about that. So I was happy that I got all of this done. It was just clogging up my freezer, and I felt like I couldn't see anything in there because of all of this leftover bread. So I'm glad that I could get this little chore off of my homemaking list. And I'm also going to make some croutons as well. Another way to use these breadcrumbs is to make your own homemade schnitzels. My favourite way to do it is with the lemon pepper for chicken schnitzels, even for pieces of fresh fish, with some plain ones for the kids, and you can even use it to make your own chicken nuggets. So my favourite way to flavour the breadcrumbs or croutons is with lemon pepper or with Italian herb mix. So with these croutons, I'm going to douse them in some olive oil, and I'm going to season them as well with some salt and pepper and those herbs and spices. So you can do this with the breadcrumbs if you wanted to. I just like to have the flexibility for, whatever I'm making, I'll flavour it at that time. And I just make it a flat rule that I don't flavour it before I put it in the freezer, because I'm going to forget, like in 2 months time, like did I do this, did I put salt and pepper on this already or not? And then I'll go and use it and I'm like, it's too salty. Oh yeah, because I already added salt. This is my thought process, right? So I just say none of that to begin with. Do it while I'm making it. While I was doing the croutons, I thought, garlic powder would be nice in here too. So I just added that in, mixed it together. And I don't like to waste food, so I'm just going to use that bread as a cloth to wipe that out and absorb all of that extra flavour. And I'm going to roast them until they're nice and crispy. All right, so the tomato sauce is coming along nicely. So it's time to prepare this to store in the fridge. So you want to have a metal strainer on hand, because you want to push this through. You could just blend it all together, but it's going to be quite spicy because there's I didn't tell you the amounts of spices earlier. I will put that in the link below. I think it was 3 tablespoons of whole peppers there. And so you want to sort of keep wiping that through and squishing that through until you've got like just a dry ball of fibre left. And don't just go and flick this in the bin. You want to scrape off your metal sieve and get all of that flavour off of there as well. So you can see that it looks like it's sort of separated a little bit, but once you stir that through, it'll be fine. So I'm just reusing a jar that my mother-in-law gifted me with tomato chutney and, sterilised it. So you can look up how to store this and sterilise it for yourself if you wanted to do a big batch. There's a few techniques in doing that. So this pretty much got me 1 week's worth of tomato sauce. My kids eat so much tomato sauce, which is what prompted me to want to make it myself, so I knew exactly what was in it. Don't you just love how it was just the right amount for that jar? Things just happen for a reason, right? 7 tomatoes was enough. And this is our homemade tomato sauce. So it was very easy to make. in the background, didn't have to check on it much, and it was ready for the kids' sausage rolls. Next up, our croutons are done, and I'm just cooling it in under the window there because it is so windy on this day. And if you saw my last video, I made sort of a $2 couscous salad using the leftover veggies. So I just ramped it up with some spinach and a boiled egg, but our croutons is what this is going to be on. So salad season, right? Croutons makes everything better, and I'm a little bit heavy-handed with mine because, I mean, you know, I went to all that effort, so I want to eat them all. I don't want them to go to waste. Don't you think croutons just upgrade a salad? So you know when you tell your kids to pack up some old toys that they may not, you know, play with anymore? That's me with this recipe book. I have a stash above my range hood. You probably noticed it's a mess. I know, I am very aware. And I got to the point where I'm like, I haven't picked this up in a while. I should probably donate it. Flicked through it, found a bunch of recipes I want to make. So it's like, I'm saying to myself, like, it's not hoarding if I'm using it, right? Right? All right, well, this is called chicken ole. I think it's pronounced ole. It's chicken ole. Doesn't sound like it has a nice ring to it. So, okay, we've got to catch up. 1 bunch of spring onions, can of salsa, 250 grams of cream cheese. Ours came in a 225 block. That's going to have to do. 2 teaspoons of cumin, salt, pepper, and a kilo. I think it's at 1.5 pounds of chicken. 6 chicken breasts anyway. So I'm going to start off with opening up the cream cheese, because you saw that I've just sliced and chopped up the spring onions. So I'm just trying to open this the most difficult way possible, and I want to cube it up to help it come to room temperature quickly, because we want that to be nice and smooth when we're going to use that to use it like a chicken filling, I guess you could say. So it's a very easy recipe, which is why I chose it, and I thought that I'd like to share that with you, because if you're in the same boat as me with little mouths to feed, I want it to be quick, easy, and on a budget. So it said it's suggested you should pound your chicken out to thin it out. So I'm thinking, why would I do that when I can just slice it in half? So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to prepare everything first so I can create a sort of assembly line to help make this a bit more efficient. So I'm just cutting off any tenderloins that I find, cutting off any gristly bits that I don't want, and I'm just going to go ahead and slice each chicken breast in half. So I'll have 12 pieces plus all the little tenderloins that I've got hanging off there. So now that we've got that all done, we need to assemble the filling. So don't do what I did. The instructions clearly said to beat the cream cheese first, and I didn't do that. So mine was a bit chunky. Figured it'd melt, it didn't. So use a hand mixer, do your cream cheese first. Then add in your salsa, your salt and pepper, and your cumin. So I kind of did it a little bit lopsided, but anyway, it worked out in the end. It's fine. So you want to mix it together first, stir that in, stir in your spring onions, and then you can go ahead and prepare your slow cooker by spraying it. I'm seasoning each side of each chicken breast. This was my sort of test piece to see, is this going to work? We're going to spoon some mixture over the top, and then we're going to roll it up. Now, the instructions said to roll it up and put it seam side down, but because I have 12 pieces plus tenderloins, not just 6 flattened out chicken breasts, it ain't going to fit in my slow cooker. So I'm going to set it up vertically, so it's going to kind of look like this tray of cinnamon rolls. Except if you lick your fingers while you're making this, you're going to get salmonella. So let's not do that. Alright, so the first test one worked okay. It didn't fall apart. So I'm going to go ahead and try and do 3 at a time. I'm looking for efficiency over here because it's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon and it needs 6 to 8 hours. So I'm going to have to pump mine up on high, whereas you normally would do it on low, but I didn't get it together in time to do it earlier in the day. So this is how we gonna roll today. So I'm just going to go ahead and do my best and get this in as quickly as I can. Now, some of the halves of the chicken breasts you can see have got little, splits in them because it's not perfectly shaped. They still worked out fine in the end. Now, I did have to tweak this a little bit further to suit me, because in the end I found that maybe because I had it on high, don't mind me shooing a fly there, kids are on school holidays letting all the flies in and out where the playground is anyway. story of my life for this 2 weeks. What was I saying? So maybe because I pumped it up on high, a lot of the juice sort of came out and it was really like runny, and I didn't like the look of it, to be honest. And so I just pulled it out, plonked it into an oven dish in the end, poured back in half the sauce, covered it in some of the grated cheese that I prepared, you'll see that, and whacked it in the oven for like 5 minutes just to brown it up, crisp it up, help dry out that extra sauce that it created. And I topped it with breadcrumbs too, so I had really nice crunchy texture, but it was still cheesy, it was moist, it was not dry, and every single little chicken roll that I made held its shape from the way that it had cooked in the slow cooker first. So you could sort of skip that and go straight to an oven, you know, dish, I guess, if you wanted to. I was also trying to pull it together quickly because I did prepare it late in the afternoon. So see how that works for you. With the tenderloins, I did smash them out to smooth them out because they were a bit on the, you know, the fatter, chunkier side, a bit hard to roll up. So I wanted to flatten them out a little bit so I could prepare them the same as all the other ones. So that's going to be little kitty dinners, their own little mini chicken breast. How cute are they? So I'm just going to go ahead and finish with these, and I really had to squeeze them in to all of the larger pieces to try and get it all to fit in the slow cooker, because you want to add the cream cheese topping sort of over the top. So I kind of didn't want them to be sitting up out of that mixture and drying out. That's the last thing that I wanted, for the kids bits to be all dry and hard, because you know it's hard enough to get kids to eat dinner at times, at least for one of my kids anyway. So that's how it worked for me. So now that you've assembled all of your little chicken rollies, you can now use the excess cream cheese mixture to smooth that out on top. Now you can see that mine is a little bit on the chunkier side because I didn't read the instructions, but that's fine because it tasted great. And the kids ate all of their dinner. Even the baby ate it. I just shredded his little bit up with some of the sauce and the rice, and kid approved. So try this in your home. Time to turn it on and put it on low for 6 to 8 hours if you got your life together in the morning, unlike me on this day. Okay, so next up I want to do a simple Mexican rice. We're going to use 3 cups of rice to 3 cups of water with a teaspoon and a half of chicken stock. I'm just doing a sprinkle of smoked paprika for some flavor. And then I thought, oh, you know what would be a really good idea? Some oregano, because that's in Mexican flavors as well. Mexican cuisine, I was going to say. And then we're going to chuck this in the rice cooker. I have a pressure cooker because my rice cooker broke, but that's fine. It still works. So if you want to do your absorption method, then you go ahead and do it the way that you would normally make it. So on the side for the veggie portion, I want to do some sauteed onions with some red and green capsicum, or peppers you might call them. This is just going to be sort of a fajita inspired little side dish. Simple, sweet, and also on sale. Coles and Woolies at the moment, so they're, you know, normally $10 a kilo. They're down to $2.90, $3.90 at the moment. So that is what inspired me to pull this meal together on a budget, of course. I ran out of fresh garlic, so I'm going to substitute with some minced garlic, and I'm just going to go ahead and saute this up. Now you'll see later on that it's not as bright as it looks now, and normally I would like to saute it right before serving it so that it is nice and colourful and still crisp, but I just wanted to get dinner done this day. I just wanted to pass the whole witching hour hectic right before dinner time. Hubby gets home from work. I wanted him to come home to a nice calm house on this day because I wasn't going to be in the kitchen because dinner's going to be done and it wouldn't even be 2:30. So you got to pick and choose your battles. You can either prepare it in advance and it might not be as colourful, might not be as bright, still tastes good, or you can do it right before serving it. So you do you. See what suits you. I chose to saute the garlic, and no, I didn't. I did the onion first, sorry, because I wanted that to be really nice and crisp before throwing in the capsicum. Red onion would have been nice, but I didn't have any. Would have been a bit more colourful. But here we are. Season that with salt and pepper. Throw in some garlic, good to go. There's a progress shot of the chicken. So now that everything's pretty much done for dinner, I saw a little project on Pinterest and I thought that was really cool. They used a wine bottle though, and I didn't want to use that much baby oil. So I went down to Silly Solly, spent $1.50 on a couple of cute little glass jars, filled them up with some baby oil, and then we're going to pick some flowers to put in to make a little pretty display, something that we can remember the beginning of spring. So I wanted to plant a cut flower garden, and that was my second calendula of the season. Wasn't doing too great. Gets pretty hot here. Some of them have died, or it got overgrown with some other pumpkins, or how do you pronounce it? Nasturtiums? I think that's how you say it. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick a couple little flowers and little blooms from the garden, spend some time outside with the kids since it's school holidays, take the time to slow down, and we're going to bottle that up. And I intend to, don't mind the airplane in the background there, boys will be boys. You see Ollie in the background before on his bike too. School holidays. So yeah, I thought this would be a nice little activity to do with the kids. They helped me pick these flowers and these little buds out, and you know what colours to put together. So this is currently sitting on our bathroom windowsill, unlike the plane which is on the roof. Next up is some food prep, and this is a really easy way just to save yourself some money when you do your groceries. So I don't know about you, but if I need grated cheese, the cost of this block is $10. The cost of a bag of grated cheese is $10. So if you were to spend $20 on cheese for the week, that's like 10% of my grocery budget. You know, that doesn't make me feel great. So I'm going to prep this myself, and that way I can save myself a bit of money this week, and then know that I'm not going to go through that much cheese in a week. So you might catch a break the next week or whatever, but this week I just thought, no, I don't want to spend any more money on my groceries. I'm just going to grate this myself. It's super easy and quick to do, and I like to store it in the freezer so it's a quick grab and go. So earlier when I was talking about grated cheese for the Mexican dish, this is what I am referring to. So I just like to cut them into thick little fingers, add your little grated attachment to your food processor, and feed that through, preferably when the baby's not asleep. Although I did just stuff a towel, like a beach towel, up against his door to block the noise, and he was fine. Third babies, man, they're so crazy compared to the first. Or maybe it's just me. Like literally it was me. I was the problem. You get a bit more chill the more babies you have, I think. So this is something that I like to do to save some money for the groceries. And if you want some more money saving tips when you do your groceries, I will link a video below for you. One other thing that I thought I would mention too is that, have you ever noticed that when you use store-bought grated cheese, it doesn't melt as nicely? And that's because they add an anti-caking agent to them. So that way, you know, when they've, so that's cheese, for example, that I'm thinking of is apparently made in New Zealand, but it's packed in Australia. So in order for them to logistically get it from New Zealand to Australia without getting just squished back into a block shape, however they transport it, they need to cover it with like a powdery sort of substance so that it will still be grated when it gets to its destination, and then packed and then sold on the shelf to you when you buy it. So that is another reason why I like to grate my own, is that I just know it's just cheese and there's nothing else added to it. And that's done. So it's very quick and easy. Add it to a Ziploc bag and chuck it in the freezer, and you will save yourself $10, or adding $10 to your grocery budget that week. Double whammy if you do it the same day as you do your breadcrumbs, because that way your food processor is already dirty. So, you know, win-win. I'm sorry, I thought I hit record when I took it out of the slow cooker and then added it to this dish to add it into the oven, but I did not. So this is what, that was my progress shot, and this is what it looked like in the end. So half the sauce went back in, covered it in cheese, covered it in breadcrumbs, good to go. Just browned it up nicely. This is our Mexican rice, Mexican inspired rice, I guess you could say. And I've just sprinkled that with some more oregano and smoked paprika just for looks. And then we've got our grilled veggies. Next up, I just want to share with you a spring scavenger hunt that you can do with your kids too, which might be a nice idea to get them outside. No matter what season that you're in, you can tailor it to suit what is around your environment to make it easy and fun for the kids to find things. We really enjoyed being out and getting some sunshine, listening to the birds and the bees, and checking out some really cool and unusual plants. I just hand did mine instead of just using a printout, simply because my printer wasn't plugged in and we just moved the office around and that was just too hard. So I quickly just hand drew things that I knew that they would find. Forgot to add butterflies in there, but that's okay. We did find some beautiful bees and it was a beautiful day outside. So if you want to encourage your kids to get out and get dirty and get exploring, consider doing a scavenger hunt with them. Might be a nice way to spend a day or half a day with them, learning and exploring their environment. Plus, it's an activity that can take hours to complete and it isn't a lot on the budget. We're lucky that this park also has an orchid house in it, and they had some really cool plants that looked like they had little mouths, and it reminded me of that scene from Alice in Wonderland. I think you know the one. I'll insert a clip here. It just made me happy to be in there, and the kids explored in there as well. Thanks for sticking around while I got all of those things checked off of my list. See you in my next video. Bye.